Good afternoon, grade sixes. Welcome to Storytime. This particular story, or long poem if you like, long narrative poem, is called The Lady of Shallott, written by Alfred Lord Tennyson. So I don't know if any of you know the story of King Arthur. You might have all seen that movie, The Sword and the Stone. Well, as you know, King Arthur had a wife called Queen Guinevere and a best friend called Lancelot. And Lancelot was just drop dead gorgeous. There is no way to get away from that. This story is about a young lady who was locked up in a tower, put there by a wicked magician. So lots of things in the story you just have to accept. It is magic. And she looks down, forbidden, onto Sir Lancelot. And remember how beautiful he was. Unfortunately, grade sixes, the story has a tragic ending, but I feel that you are mature enough to cope with it now. Here we go. On either side the river lie long fields of barley and of rye that clothe the world and meet the sky, and through the field the road runs by to many towered Camelot, and up and down the people go, gazing where the lilies blow, round an island there below, the island of Shallott. Willows whiten, aspens quiver, little breezes dusk and shiver through the wave that runs forever by the island in the river, flowing down to Camelot. 4 grey walls and 4 grey towers overlook a space of flowers. There the silent isle embowers the Lady of Shallott. By the margin, willow veiled, slide the heavy barges, trailed by slow horses and unhailed. The shallop flitters silken sailed, skimming down to Camelot. But who hath seen her wave her hand, or at the casement seen her stand? Or is she known in all the land, the Lady of Shallott? Only reapers reaping early in among the bearded barley heard a song that echoed cheerly from the river winding clearly down to towered Camelot. And by the moon the reapers weary, piling sheaves in uplands airy, listening whispers, "'Tis the fairy Lady of Shallott." There she weaves by night and day a magic web with colours gay. She has heard a whisper say a curse is on her if she stay to look down to Camelot. She knows not what the curse may be, and so she weaveth steadily, and little other care hath she, the Lady of Shallott. And moving through a mirror clear that hangs before her all the year, shadows of the world appear. There she sees the highway near, there the river eddy whirls, and the surly village churls, and the red cloaks of market girls pass onward from Shallott. Sometimes a troop of damsels glad, an abbot on an ambling pad, sometimes a curly shepherd lad, or long-haired page in crimson clad, goes by to towered Camelot. And sometimes through the mirror blue, the knights come riding 2 by 2. She hath no loyal knight and true, the Lady of Shallott. But in her web she still delights to weave the mirror's magic sights, for often through the silent nights a funeral with plumes and lights and music went to Camelot. Or when the moon was overhead, came 2 young lovers, lately wed. "I am half sick of shadows," said the Lady of Shallott. A bowshot from her bower eaves, he rode between the barley sheaves. The sun came dazzling through the leaves and flamed upon the brazen greaves of bold Sir Lancelot. A red cross knight forever kneeled to a lady in his shield that sparkled on the yellow field beside remote Shallott. The gemmy bridle glittered free, like to some branch of stars we see, hung in the golden galaxy. The bridal bells rang merrily as he rode down to Camelot, and from his blazoned baldric slung a mighty silver bugle hung, and as he rode his armour rung beside remote Shallott. All in the blue unclouded weather, thick jewelled shone the saddle leather. The helmet and the helmet feather burned like one burning flame together as he rode down to Camelot. For often through the purple night, below the starry clusters bright, some bearded meteor, trailing light, moves over still Shallott. His broad, clear brow in sunlight glowed, on burnished hooves his war horse trode. From underneath his helmet flowed his coal-black curls as on he rode down to Camelot. From the bank and from the river he flashed into the crystal mirror. Tirra-lirra by the river, sang Sir Lancelot. She left the web, she left the loom, she took 3 paces through the room. She saw the water lily bloom, she saw the helmet and the plume. She looked down to Camelot. Out flew the web and floated wide. The mirror cracked from side to side. The curse has come upon me, cried the Lady of Shallott. In the stormy east wind straining, the pale yellow woods were waning, the broad stream in his banks complaining, heavily the low sky raining over towered Camelot. Down she came and found a boat beneath the willow left afloat, and round about the prow she wrote, the Lady of Shallott. And down the river's dim expanse, like some bold seer in a trance, seeing all his own mischance, with a glassy countenance did she look to Camelot. And at the closing of the day, she loosed the chain, and down she lay. The broad stream bore her far away, the Lady of Shallott, lying robed in snowy white, that loosely flew from left to right, the leaves upon her falling light. Through the noises of the night she floated down to Camelot, and as the boat head wound along the willowy hills and fields along, they heard her singing her last song, the Lady of Shallott. Heard a carol, mournful, holy, chanted loudly, chanted lowly, till her blood was frozen slowly, and her eyes were darkened wholly, turned to towered Camelot. For ere she reached upon the tide, the first house by the waterside, singing in her song, she died, the Lady of Shallott. Under tower and balcony, by garden wall and gallery, a gleaming shape she floated by, dead pale beneath the houses high, silent into Camelot. And out upon the wharves they came, knights and burghers, lord and dame, and round the prow they read her name, the Lady of Shallott. Who is this? And what is here? And in the lighted palace near died the sound of royal cheer, and they crossed themselves with fear, all the knights at Camelot. But Lancelot mused a little space. He said, "She has a lovely face. God in his mercy lend her grace, the Lady of Shallott." Now, grade 6s, especially the girls, the Lady of Shallott knew that if she went to that window, she would be cursed. But such was the beauty of Sir Lancelot, She almost couldn't help herself. I want to ask you girls, do you think you would do that for a boy that you loved? Think about it. She knew something terrible was going to happen to her. The tragedy of all of this is, if you listen to the last verse, Lancelot never knew her at all. He just saw her body floating by, and he mused, she has a lovely face. That's all she was to him. But to her, Lancelot was the world. Her blood was frozen slowly. Can you tell me what the grand big medical word for freezing to death is? Think about it. Those of you who need a clue, it starts with an H. Now, how does Mrs. Geffen know how to say all these words without looking very much at the pages? Well, I tell you what's really helpful is that it is in a long poem form, and I find that when you have rhyming words, the rhythm helps carry the story along. So think about that next time you read a poem and see what you remember afterwards. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.